Hi, thanks for tuning into Tea Time. I'm Chetty Narula. We're at the rather picturesque JP Greens in Greater Noida on the outskirts of Delhi. Joining me today on the show is the Delhi boy. He studied in Massachusetts. He's a dynamic B-School grad. He's young and he's an entrepreneur, quite worth his salt. Of course, literally, because he's into the business of restaurants. Discussing the restaurant industry in much more detail in India is Kabir Suri of Azure Hospitality.
On the show this week, we have Kabir Suri, co-founder, Azure Hospitality.
You have that passion to eat. You have the passion to try. You have the passion to know what is good and what is bad. I don't think you can learn to love food. You're born to love food.
In news, Patrick Reed wins Human Art Challenge, and Pablo Larrazabal holds off Phil Mickelson and Rory McIlroy to win Abu Dhabi HSBC Golf Championship.
Wow. What a beautiful tea off, Kabir.
Thank you.
Welcome to Tea Time.
Thank you very much.
So let's start off with your entrepreneurial journey. When did you embark upon being an entrepreneur?
You know, actually, after I finished university, I started working in New York as a banker. I was working there for about 4 years, doing corporate real estate, finance.
Sure.
And I realized that, you know, I didn't wake up in the morning with that hunger of going to work. So that's when I decided that I need to move out of, you know, a job and try and start something of my own, which is when I moved forward, went to the UK, got trading within the family business, which is also in restaurants,
Sure.
and then moved to India and started Azure.
Now, the Indian share in the global pie of restaurants is increasing. We're going to be reaching stellar figures of over 1,37,000 crore rupees by 2017.
Yeah.
It's a rough industry estimate. What is really contributing to such stellar figures?
I think, you know, it's a combination of many things. It's the fact that disposable income is increasing in India, people are traveling more, expectations are higher, rural India is moving to the next level up, so each level is moving up. So,
Sure.
you know, so now you have a metro, you have tier 1, tier 2, and each segment of the market has increased disposable income.
There are apartments now in Singapore and Thailand where people don't even have kitchens because they're always eating out. Is it a far cry for India to come to that stage?
I don't see it happening in the near future, but I think maybe in the next 10 years, at least metros such as Bombay, for example,
Sure.
you know, flats are small, you don't have staff at home, you're always in a hurry.
Right.
So hence, what I've noticed, because we have restaurants in Bombay, what I've noticed is that the number of times the same customer dines out is far greater in places like Bombay than it is in Delhi.
When you came into India to start off your entrepreneurial journey into restaurants, did you notice that there was this growth potential, or did you just come in because your family was into the same business?
My family actually is not in this business in India.
Right.
My family runs restaurants amongst other businesses globally.
Globally.
I initially came to India to open one of the family restaurants.
Okay.
And I realized that the market was not ready for a $100 ticket
Sure.
per person, 120 seats. Hence, I realized that, you know, waiting for that to happen, why not create something which is, you know, which will work for the Indian population, which is, you know, keeping in tune the current scenario rather than what will happen in the future. And hence, that's how Mama Godu was created. You know, we applied a lot of science, math, you know, market knowledge, created something that would work for the masses, that's approachable, that's you know, that would be enjoyed, that's accessible, that's price sensitive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there was obviously that genetic love for food.
Absolutely. Food is, you know, food is something that you are born with. You have
Right.
that passion to eat. You have the
Right.
passion to try. You have the passion to know what is good and what is bad. You know what, you know, so I don't think you can learn to love food. You're born to love food.
Which cuisine are you likely to experiment next with? Because I know you've given India Chinese.
Yes.
When are you giving India Indian?
You know, I predominantly would try and focus on things that I know.
Right.
And I'm not going to lie to myself and lie to anyone else. I'm very comfortable with the cuisines that I'm currently doing. I think the next cuisine we would probably tackle is more Mediterranean, Italian sort of that field.
You quite have an international taste bud, isn't it?
I think I have, because I mean I was in India till I was 17, and
Sure.
post that I've been overseas. You know,
Sure.
I was in college, I worked overseas, so, and I just moved back 4 years ago. So, you know, I have a very global taste bud, and I
Right.
think that is what I'm trying to bring into India, because as the customer base is evolving, the taste buds are evolving.
Sure.
Hence, that is appreciated now in India, and people are understanding different flavors.
Absolutely. On that note, time now for me to tee up.
Please, thank you. Shot. Nice shot.
Now, I read an article somewhere that said that the country's restaurant market is 24 times bigger than the film industry. How true is that statement in your opinion?
Because there's so much activity in the food industry, and it's obviously goes across spectrum. So it is an industry that is growing.
Right.
Now, is it as big as Bollywood? Is it as big as, you know, the entire film fraternity, including the South? I'm not sure.
No, it's growing 24 times
Oh yes,
bigger.
growth. Yes,
Yes,
The
growth.
growth
Growth-wise.
multiple. Yes, absolutely. That I completely agree with.
What is leading to this kind of a growth spurt in terms of investments, in terms of venture capitalist
Absolutely.
funding,
Yeah.
in terms of private equity
There's
funding?
a lot of interest, because when you have such high growth multiples
Right.
happening within an industry,
Right.
it obviously gets everyone's eyes, right? When the global market is in a mess, or has been in a mess the last few years,
Sure.
you know, global money came into India, right?
Right.
Similarly, when there's certain sectors within the Indian market, you know, may it be infrastructure that's been, you know, logged up.
Right.
There's the power generation that's been, you know, it's not growing as fast as it needs to grow.
Sure.
So then obviously investors, high net individuals, private equity, venture caps, they need to deploy money. They need a return on their money. They need multiples, right?
Right.
So then you find lucrative areas in the markets, may it be healthcare, may it be food, may it be education, where you find these gaps and you realize that the growth potential is much higher. And I think that is what's growing the food business for sure.
Do you think the share of the unorganized players in this market in the pie chart will reduce, and the share of course, organized players like you entering the market is set to enhance on the pie chart itself on paper?
Yes and no. See, the small shop, the kirana guy selling an aloo tikki, the guy that's sitting on the road selling his food, that will always happen, right? That will always exist. But, you know, organized players like us and others will grow much faster with capital, right? So
Sure.
yes, we will eat into the market share. If you look at it from a percentage standpoint, out of 100, maybe your organized players might start contributing 60% of that. But you
Sure.
will still have 40%, which is your unorganized. Because the smaller guys, that's their livelihood. They're not going to sell out.
India has a clear future set when it comes to the restaurant market. Kabir Suri, the director of Azure Hospitality, and me, Chethy Narula. We will take a quick break right here, and we will see you on the other side. Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time, and welcome back. We're in conversation with the dynamic Kabir Suri, who also has a genetic love for food. Now let's talk a little bit about regulation in this country. NRAI experts have pointed out that the restaurant industry in India is overtaxed, it's over-licensed. How much are you in agreement to that statement?
I agree with both the statements. I think taxation is a big problem.
Sure.
Problem not in the wrong way, but problem because we are overtaxing customers. You know, dining out is supposed to be a fun, enjoyable moment with family, with friends.
Right.
When we add excessive taxation,
Sure.
it only burns the consumer's pocket.
Right.
So all we're doing is we're reducing the number of times they go out, because
Sure.
everyone, a certain bracket of people have certain budgets that they have to stay within.
Cater to,
So
yes.
yeah. So, you know, I think if the taxation would be a lot more liberal.
Right.
I'm not saying remove taxation. You need the taxation. You know, we as restaurateurs contribute a lot to the GDP of the country
Absolutely.
by, you know, collecting the taxation on behalf from the customer. But it needs to be, you know, within certain parameters, which I think we as restaurateurs, you know, need to speak to, you know, the finance department
Sure.
of the country. and see how to, engage them in respect to, hearing what we have to say about this. And in respect to licenses, to me, when I moved back from overseas, it was an eye-opener, because I obviously from ground up had to go through the process of starting a restaurant.
Sure.
And had to deal with the various number of licenses that are required. And from an outsider's perspective, it looks very glamorous to open a restaurant, and I would tell anyone that's opening a restaurant, be very, very careful when you think of opening a restaurant, because it looks very glamorous, but it is a very, very difficult, very, very engaging business, which if you don't have the experience and the expertise, you will definitely burn.
Have you started opening any kind of a dialogue with the central government with regards to the over-licensing and multiple licensing issue?
We, like I said, we within industry have been speaking to people, to restaurateurs, to larger players, and I think we haven't independently gone to the finance department to discuss it.
Yes.
But however, I think
your body?
through the body, we are in talks. We are trying to engage. We're trying to reason. We're trying to make them understand, because our industry in general is adding a lot of. Besides revenue, we're adding a lot of employment.
Absolutely.
So, it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Staying with the obstacles now, the other obstacle, of course, is the high food inflation costs. You've got high real estate costs, fragmented supply chains as well.
Yeah.
How are you dealing with these?
It's been tough. The last 6 months have been really tough. We have different brands, right? So I'll talk based on the Asian segment. We import through the suppliers a lot of stuff, lamb chops, ribs, sauces, these are all dependent on, dollar fluctuation, customs, items getting stuck in customs, which is what's been happening the last 6 months. So, inflation obviously matters to us based on each segment of our brand, it hurts.
Absolutely.
So, we have QSR brands, which it hurts even more because it's very price sensitive, it's very price controlled. I can't keep passing it on to the customer.
Sure.
So, in regard to the fragmented supply chains, that also does matter because, with the infrastructure not being in place,
sure,
your cold chain is not in place.
Right.
So, it's all correlated. Everything's correlated. The supply chains, even for example, for wine, for example, I'll give you a great example. Wine that is imported into India sits in the custom port. Now, it needs to be at a certain temperature.
Sure.
Now, by the time it goes from there, then it goes from the suppliers go down. And from the go down, then it's transported to the end buyer, as in the restaurants or the hotels. Has it been within the temperature that it's supposed to be? No, it's not. So there are a lot of issues like this. I mean, even with food, there are issues. With seafood that comes in, we don't have the proper cold chain storage system that are in place currently, but they are happening. It's not like they're not happening,
sure,
but they are happening. And obviously, if they are happening, the costs are going to be higher because the infrastructure is not there to support it.
Correct.
So.
I mean, the consumer, of course, is very discerning to good quality now.
Absolutely,
with,
and they should
the
be.
onslaught of internet and social
Absolutely.
media and the power of social media, whatnot. But rarely has the restaurant industry in the past gone through so many multiple issues.
Yeah.
So what, in your opinion, today is the winning restaurant formula?
I think there's 3 or 4 very important points when you're looking at opening a restaurant.
Sure.
One is that if you talk to anyone in the world, it's always location, location, location. So location is very important. Second is price point and target market. Right. So are you being able to target the right audience?
Right.
Okay. Third is obviously cuisine. Have you been able to get the right food, the right preparation, the right execution of the food, the right presentation? So it's a combination of these 3 things that I think makes a successful restaurant. So location, very important. The price point, very important. Price point and segment.
Sure.
And then obviously the type of cuisine, the consistency, the quality, the execution.
Out of the entire portfolio, I do notice that there isn't any fine dining restaurant per se.
Yes.
Are you planning to make a foray into fine dining as well? Or have you stayed away from it on purpose?
I have stayed away from it on purpose. And
why?
The reason is I just feel the Indian consumer, as they grow, as there's more and more understanding of food, you have to make a decision. Are you focusing what segment within the market?
Sure.
In my opinion, the segment that is catering to 800 rupees, 500 rupees, 300 rupees is much larger.
Sure.
Than the segment that is catering to 1500 rupees to 2000 rupees.
Okay.
So having that in mind, the idea was create businesses that can be scaled. Don't
Right.
create businesses that can be one or two
Absolutely.
locations. So that was our
Absolutely.
mantra in respect to what we are doing. We're trying to create businesses that you can scale domestically, pan-India, and then internationally. Economies of scale need to come in.
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
So it's a very systematic manner of the way we look at growth.
Well, so a rather systematic approach, Kabir, for the next 5 years going forward. On that note, it's a good time now for us to take a quick breather on tea time. Kabir and I, we will see you on the other side where we will be discussing social media when it comes to restaurants in much larger detail. Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time. We're in conversation discussing food fetishes and the business of restaurant with Kabir Suri, the director of Azure Hospitality. Now, Kabir, how much is social media important to your business of food now? There's an onslaught of Twitter, Facebook handles. You've got food websites.
Yep.
You've got critics to deal with.
Yep.
What is the new changing paradigm on the back of digitization for the food and beverage industry?
I think it's a big change. When I moved here 5 years ago, it was not as evolved as it is today.
Right.
Which is I think we're moving the right direction. We're empowering the consumer, right, to discuss, to give us feedback. So I think it's a very positive change.
Sure.
It however needs to be at times taken with a pinch of salt.
Right.
Because I feel that, with everyone's opinion, it's very important. The feedback that we gain from it is very important. The actions we can take to resolve the problem or to appreciate the service provided by the staff
Right.
is possible.
Sure. But you businessmen also now have to be far more careful with regards to quality and many other things in this business with this kind of onslaught of social media,
Absolutely,
isn't it?
absolutely. But see, the thing is, if you're in the restaurant to make money,
Yes.
then it's the wrong business to be in.
Really? Why so?
You make money, but you are not, if you're not in the business to basically give good food, to be passionate about what you're serving,
Okay.
to help understand what the consumer want. Because see, if you want to make money, there are many ways to make shortcuts and to, make money.
Right.
But, in order to have a fan following, in order to serve, 50,000 customers a month,
Right.
in order to, have that sort of
Your intrinsic love for food
interesting
is...
love for food, it's very important because that helps the longevity of a brand. Because if you want to make money, then you can make money very quickly, but that brand will never succeed.
Would you agree that cold chain logistics is the backbone of the restaurant industry today in India?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, your vegetables need to come through cold chain. Your produce needs to come through cold chain. So, if you're serving vegetables and produce, yes, cold chain is very important.
Sure.
But if you're serving sandwiches and pizzas, yeah, I mean, even for a pizza you need cheese. So yeah, cold chain is very, very important.
Sure. Let's finish our game and we discuss more. So Kabir, your take on Indian brands going international.
Yeah,
What's your take?
I'm very proud if they do. I think,
You've got a lot of international restaurants through family.
yeah,
as
my
well
family
abroad.
owns a lot of brands overseas, and I've seen them develop and evolve to what they've become globally. But I think being an Indian, we creating your own brand
Yeah.
and then taking it overseas
Yeah.
is a fantastic feeling. And I think whoever is able to achieve that
Sure.
is a great thing.
Are your expansion plans as well on track?
Yeah, they are on track. I mean, our plan is to basically open 24 restaurants a year. Well, we're opening between the three brands that we have.
Right.
Right. So we're opening 10 Roll Mals, 10 Speedy Chows, and 4 Mama Goros a year. So
Right.
that's the idea. That's the funding that we have in place. So that's what we're doing currently. We're also looking at evolving our international side of the business because we've had a lot of demand from people. People have approached us for franchising, joint ventures. So for us to have created brands such as these that have been appreciated by people that have come from the West, that they see a potential for growth with these brands, their uniqueness, the way they've been packaged.
Yes.
I think that is what drives us for getting up in the morning and saying that, you know, you've done something that is scalable, that you've created something that can become the next big thing, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about your golfing escapades now. How long have you been playing this game?
I've been playing since I was 12. I actually was ranked under 17 when I was living in India.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of tournaments, and when I moved to the US for university, I played there. I played in New York a little bit while I worked there, but working in a bank, you never got time.
In New York, hardly you can play if you're in Manhattan.
Exactly.
Anyway.
You have to drive out to Long Island
Yes.
and play there. And it's only when I came back to India that I've been able to get back to the game.
Tell me now, how much does golf really help you back there in your business?
See, golf is a game that you play against yourself, right? In business, if you're playing against others, that's one way of doing business.
Sure.
If you play against yourself, that's another way of doing business. And the way we run business is where we are always internally looking at how we can run our business in a certain manner, how to improve our business, right? So I think golf gives you the discipline. Golf teaches you how to, compete with yourself. Hence, when you're running a business, it helps you. And golf teaches you to be patient.
Right.
Because, it's a very frustrating game. Because you'll hit the ball right, you'll hit the ball left.
Absolutely.
And you can get very frustrated. So it teaches you how to be patient. It teaches you how to appreciate what you're doing. And similarly, if you take the same values into the work world, into running a business, you have to be patient. You have to be patient with the people that you work with. You have to be patient with the consumers. You have to be patient with everyone.
All right, thanks Kabir for joining me on Tea
Thank
Time.
you.
Lovely to have you on the show. On that note, it's a wrap from Kabir Suri and me, Chethi Narula, on Tea Time. I will see you next week again from another interesting guest from a different sector altogether. Until then, as cliched as I may always sound, enjoy the flight of a good drive.